What is forgiveness and why is it so very hard for us to forgive people? And does that mean letting people off the hook? Forgiveness is probably one of the most difficult topics that Christians talk about because they feel like they should forgive. But honestly, at the end of the day, what does that mean? So let's talk about it. Hey everybody, welcome to the channel. I'm Pastor Siri. I'm a Lutheran pastor and a spiritual seeker. And this summer I wrote this 15-week curriculum of love. And we are slowly going through each of the weeks. And this week we are looking at forgiveness and boundaries. And I think it's really important to talk about. And I had a huge understanding a couple years ago that changed the way I thought of forgiveness forever. And it's been really helpful. So first I'm going to start with a story. A couple of years ago, I was sitting down with my high school kid who was really struggling in school. And they had a lot of other things going on at the same time. I'd spend months trying to get them the right therapist, the right help, getting a diagnosis, all of this stuff. And I was getting messages from the teachers saying they're not turning in their work, they're behind, like red light. And so I sat down with him at the kitchen table and I opened up and I was like, I will type for you right now. I will type for you, but let's try to get something in. And they weren't, at that moment, they just couldn't do anything. And all the months of me trying to mother and trying to figure out what was the right thing for them and just wanting them to succeed and wanting them to get help and not knowing what to do bubbled up, and I got really frustrated and I slammed the laptop down and I went upstairs to my room, shut the door, and just had myself a little temper tantrum just by myself. My husband came up and talked to me and I was just expressing to him my frustration of just oh my gosh, what do I do? What do I do? When I came down, my kid was really upset. They hadn't heard what I said, but they definitely knew that I was frustrated and they'd internalized that. And so they were, in that moment, my heart just broke and we went into the room and we had a nice long talk. And here's the thing about that. Neither of us in that moment, we were both doing the very best that we could. It was just a hard situation. For me, I didn't know what it was like to be in a situation where you literally couldn't do your homework. I'd never had that experience. And I was trying to understand them. I was trying, but I was also emotionally exhausted from months of trying to figure things out and pull together resources and hitting walls. I was wiped out and exhausted. And they were exhausted too. And they were feeling so bad about the fact that they couldn't, why am I not normal, right? Why am I not normal? In that moment, none of us could be anything other than what we were. All of our life experience that far, everything that was going inside, we couldn't have been any different. I wish I might have handled it differently, but honestly, I was done. I was exhausted. And that's how I reacted. I would want forgiveness and compassion for the fact that I was running on empty. And at the same time, I can look at my kid and go, there's nothing they did wrong. There's nothing they did wrong. They were doing the best they could at that moment. It was just a hard situation. To give each other forgiveness is to realize that in that moment, there is nothing that either one of us could have done to have done anything differently. But yet, with compassion and with that forgiveness and seeing each other, we were able to move on and have different outcomes in the future. So my point about forgiveness is that what we don't often talk about, usually what we talk about in forgiveness is that it's you have to get over that somebody else. You have to okay, no, it's fine. It's fine. You hurt me really bad. You did this thing to me, but in forgiveness, I'm going to just let it go. I'm just going to let it go. And I don't know a lot of people who successfully are able to do that. What really helped me to understand it is to go from their life experience they've had so far, their personalities, their hurts, their ignorance, their immaturity, their lack of experience, whatever they're doing in that moment, nothing else could have been done. Like, they are acting exactly out of where they're coming from. So we have plants that struggle to grow in our yard because we have sandy ground. It is not the plant's fault when they're struggling, right? We know that. We don't think they're being bad, naughty plants because they're not growing the way we want them to grow. If we want a change in how the plants grow, we have to nurture the soil. We have to do something different with the plants. And the same is true with people. People are acting exactly the way, the logical conclusion of how they should act given their life experience, their age, their maturity, their ignorances, their blind sides, their fears, their gifts, their everything. Both in good and bad ways, we're acting completely logically. And forgiveness is seeing that and going, oh, okay. Even if someone has malicious intent, why do they have malicious intent? What happened to them that would allow them to have malicious intent? I very rarely have any kind of malicious intent in my words or deeds or thoughts, probably because I haven't had a lot of really awful stuff happen to me. I don't know. But we're each coming to the situation of our life exactly the way we should be, and very rarely does it have anything to do with other people. That's the second part of forgiveness that I want to talk about. When I realize that how someone else acts has very little to do with me, and in a lot of ways, it's just having to do with them and the way they're perceiving the world, and I just happen to be in front of them. Now, certainly there's times in which I can really hurt someone or really say something wrong, but here's the interesting thing. The reason I know this is true about forgiveness is because people will react to you differently when the same thing happens. Here's an example. I talk to 3 different friends and I say the same thing. One of them finds offense in it, even though I didn't mean any offense. The other one thinks that what I said was absolutely brilliant. And she's like, oh, this is amazing. And we have this great conversation, right? And the third one has a completely different take. In that moment, I said the exact same thing with the exact same feeling underneath, but they took it differently. Why? Because of who they are and where they are. They were hearing it. They were seeing me, how they were, not how I was. So forgiveness to me is when we have the ability to see other people as on their own journey, and we just happen to come across it maybe at the wrong time. And they were reacting more to what was going on inside of them than actually anything we were doing. And in that way, realizing this is their journey and I can't do anything about it, I'm just going to let them be on their journey and releasing that. But in the process of forgiveness, there can be boundaries that are created, right? This doesn't mean that we are letting everything go, that we're saying, okay, you can continue to act the way you're acting because it's the only way you know how to act. Boundaries come in when the wisdom and the clarity of our own presence goes, this is good, this is not good for us, this is not an ideal situation. For example, you have a 5-year-old who goes grocery shopping with you and always wants to carry things in from the car to the house. And one time they really want to carry the watermelon, but they drop it and it splatters all over. Was it their fault? No, they didn't know they weren't strong enough. They really wanted to help. They thought they could do it. They weren't strong enough. It wasn't their fault, okay? We can kind of see that. Maybe they want to keep carrying in the watermelon, but we know that even though it wasn't their fault, it splattered the first time, we're not going to continue to give them the watermelon. We know they're not capable of doing that. They may not have figured it out, but in our own wisdom, without any malice or anger or resentment, we're like, nope, honey, I love you and you can help with this light thing, but the watermelon is something that mama has to carry in. So forgiveness can come with good boundaries where in clarity and in wisdom, we are also discerning exactly what it is that would be a good, appropriate, right situation at the moment. And it doesn't have to involve judgment. In my last video, I talked about how judgment is really, we're not seeing people the way they are, we're seeing them the way we are. And the opposite of judgment is acceptance and forgiveness. When we realize, oh, this is who they are apart from me. Oh, this is everything that's leading up to why they are the way they are. I understand. You know what? Okay, it's not about me. I'm going to forgive them for that. But maybe we don't continue to partner in this way. Or maybe I have a conversation with them and I tell them how this affected me without me blaming them for like, you did this to me. You did this to me. It's such a different way of moving forward in relationship. There's a sort of acceptance. You're where you are, I'm where I am, and is this going to work or not? How can we move forward? What's the best path forward? There's so much more grace and compassion and just a lack of pointing fingers that happens with this. Now, anyone who's taught anything about forgiveness often says that we practice these perspectives. We practice these perspectives and we start with the easiest people. The people who annoy us, the person who cut us off in traffic, you know, we can go through different scenarios, put ourselves in their shoes and say, how can we explain our neighbors in the kindest way? How is what they did has nothing to do with me? How can I look at that as I was just there in that moment? So we start with the easy things and then we slowly move to the friend that said something hurtful, to the coworker, and then maybe we start moving closer and closer and bigger. But it's a practice. It's a practice of compassion. It's a practice of understanding and acceptance. In the same way that I would want forgiveness for my actions of when I was exhausted, overwhelmed, didn't understand my feelings, said or did something that if I was in my right mind I wouldn't have done, I would hope people would understand and go, oh, Siri, you're not okay right now. Wow, what's really bothering you? That's forgiveness. That's acceptance. That's grace. That's mercy. All of them are intertwined. Forgiveness, acceptance, grace, mercy, compassion. They're not separate categories that have nothing to do with each other. They all are like Venn diagrams and connecting links on this big chain of love and community and unity between all of us. And our world has taught us to sever that. Our world has taught us to judge. So it is hard for us to forgive because first of all, we think forgiveness is letting people off the hook. And then it opens us up to being hurt again. And the parts within us are carrying a lot of burdens and they're trying to protect us from further hurt. And it also feels really good to judge somebody in that moment. It feels really good to not forgive them and to hold things over them because our ego, our burdens that the parts are carrying inside don't know how to let that go yet. Okay, I have a different perspective of the ego from many other teachers. I don't think the ego is malicious. It doesn't want us to be stuck in suffering or hurting. The ego is sort of all the burdens and all the parts within us that are not yet mature and don't know what else to do. Every time I've gone inside and talked with a part of myself and like, why are you holding on to this? Why? They don't know how to let it go yet. And they're not ready to let it go yet. And they don't know what else to do, right? They don't always have the wisdom and the clarity and the perspective to move beyond it. And we can learn that and we can change. But in the moment when we can't let things go, when we're holding on and we can't let things go, it's usually because we haven't processed through something inside and we need to give some love and attention inside. And as we do that and as we give that attention, it can loosen the need we have to be angry, the need we have to hold it over other people. And so forgiveness is really is a letting go of, you couldn't have done anything other than what you did in this moment, given the situation that you were. And I'm going to take care of myself. It's not your job. It's not your job to take care of me. I'm going to take care of me and put up whatever boundaries I need to in a good and a healthy way, not in a resentful way, but in a good and a healthy way. So the last thing I want to say before we move on is I want to talk about the anger we can feel when people hurt us. So as you hear me talking, maybe some of your parts are reacting as if they're saying, like, aren't we allowed to be angry when people hurt us? Yes. Yeah, feelings are feelings. They're going to happen. Our feelings are signals that something's off, that something's wrong. And that is a call for us to be curious and pay attention to what's going on. Too long, especially women, have been told that being angry is not Christian and it's not spiritual, and they've repressed and suppressed their anger. I suppressed my anger for many years in my first marriage because I felt like if I let it out, if I really said the thing that I was thinking inside, that it would blow up my life. It would blow up my marriage. Well, eventually that ended up happening anyway. But processing through, being curious about why we feel what we do, and is part of tending to ourselves. It's part of that understanding of what is mine to deal with. And in the process of really learning, why did it hurt me? Why did it make me angry? How do I need to take care of myself? It clarifies the situation and might give us a little bit more insight into how we can untangle our threads from us to the person who hurt us. And maybe it'll give us a different way to then understand why that person did what they did and how it might have nothing to do with us, and how our reaction maybe had more to do with where we were. They did what they did because of where they were, and we reacted because of where we were. And we're all just in real life bouncing, reacting. Very few people on this planet are actually intentionally slowing down and taking responsibility for their own acceptance, love, forgiveness, mercy within, right? The healing and the medicine that we need to do within is only ours to do. And taking responsibility to look at our hurts and the red flags that come up, how could you say that to me? All of that is just ways for us to attend to ourselves and to honor our feelings. Go upstairs and be mad and punch a pillow and rage and get in the car and swear up a storm. I do that to process through the emotions, and then I get a clarity of why I'm feeling that way, and that starts to shift my relationship to other people and allows me to forgive them more. So that was a lot of different things going on. I hope it made sense to you. My neighbor started the lawnmower, so maybe you can hear that. Please comment if this was helpful, or if you have any other questions or clarifications that you need, and we will see you next time. Bye-bye.